back with our breaking news. A person has been detained for questioning in the disappearance of Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy. A source is now telling us that this person was detained in Rio Rico. You see there on the map, it is near the border with Mexico. It's about an hour south of Tucson. Let's go back to Jake and Ed Lavandera. Ed, you're familiar with this area. What can you tell us?
Well, it's just north of Nogales, which is, obviously one of the border areas that crossing into Mexico. We've been over the years, done a lot of reporting through the area. Very remote. You start getting down into this part of Arizona. It starts becoming very remote. It's also a place where Nogales, it's literally right on the border. The border wall goes right through town, so you could literally take one step if that wall wasn't there and cross into Mexico. So at that point, it's Interstate 19, which takes you south from Tucson all the way into Nogales, which is about 60 miles. Obviously, the border infrastructure and all of the law enforcement presence that is down in this part of the world has changed dramatically in the last few years. So so it's a very difficult a place where you're not going to drive very far without running into some sort of law enforcement vehicle down there.
Right. So Rio Rico is 51 miles south of Tucson, and again, my map here. If this is Arizona, for those people who are not familiar with Arizona, it's a kind of a rectangle, and Phoenix is about here, and you're showing it there. Great. And Tucson is the biggest southern city. And it's 60 miles from the Mexican border and 51 miles from Tucson, 9 miles from the border is Rio Rico. And this area, tell us, Ed, because you've covered this mainly for immigration stories,
right.
But you've covered this area for years and years and years. Small towns, but fairly desolate, right?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, when we started hearing news of this, I was calling around to restaurants in the area to see if there was any kind of activity that was people were noticing in that area.
You would notice if there were like a helicopter or 2 police vans.
That's why I was calling restaurants, because
Yeah.
if all of a sudden there's a cavalry of law enforcement that has shown up, it does not take long for word like that to spread. Although, traffic stops and along the road, along that interstate from Nogales traveling up to Tucson, probably not terribly uncommon. So if it was a small traffic stop, it might have been overlooked by people. But if it was, we're still trying to figure out exactly how all of this unfolded this evening.
Yeah, and just to make that point clear, because I think the Pima County Sheriff's Department, not purposely, but they muddied the waters a little bit because it's not clear. We had initially been told that this individual was detained as part of an investigative tip, a lead. We don't know if it's related to the images, the video shown or not, but it also sounded from the Pima County Sheriff that the person was detained after a traffic stop. So I guess what we don't know is, was that traffic stop purposeful, or were they just pulling people over?
Well, a lot of times in these cases, in a variety of cases, it is a traffic stop that they, tail lights out, and they're like, that's the reason that they can start, pulling you over, and they can start asking you questions. Again, I don't know exactly how all of this unfolded tonight, if there was a specific description of a vehicle or a license plate or a specific person that they were looking at. But then, if someone is pulled over, they start acting suspiciously, you start asking all sorts of questions. So it'll be incredibly fascinating to see how all of this kind of plays out. But at that point, you said 51 miles, so it's probably like another 10 miles to Nogales, headed south. Obviously it's going to beg a lot of questions, like what exactly was happening here, and what was the situation.
And Abby, the fact that this all came down so soon after this video was released, we don't know that it's connected, but it seems as though that it would be very likely, and you heard Andy McCabe, the former deputy director of the FBI, say that it seemed very likely to him that it is related. Somebody saw the video, the build, the gate, the details, and that led to this information. We don't know that to be a fact, but Andy McCabe, former deputy director of the FBI, said it seems more likely than not. Back to you, Abby.
Yeah, very clearly there's a lot of momentum tonight in this case. Back with my panel here in studio. And David, I want to talk to you about this traffic stop because the fact of where it occurred, it seems not something that would happen by happenstance. So putting your NYPD detective hat on, what do you see there?
Now, when you have it, you have the subject at the residence, the crypto. You're going to have cell phones, cell phone analysis, geolocation, geofencing, whatever they're going to do. They've been doing this analysis. Were they able to obtain a phone number, which then they were able to locate where an identification and then follow this person and ping that phone? You can't make an arrest based on, we have nothing, but you're looking for that traffic violation. Hate to say it, that's how it works.
Right, somebody, doesn't turn their indicator on.
Right turn, left turn, wrong, failure to signal. That gives the opportunity to create that stop. You can detain a person for that. A summons is in lieu of arrest. So you can take that person in for that summons to make positive identification, whatever you're going to utilize, bring them back to the office, bring them back, and then you're going to be in that room talking to them. And while you're doing that conversation, I guarantee you have the outside running everything about this person, trying to obtain search warrants, everything about this person that you can find out. I don't call it purpology in a sense, but you're also going to do try to obtain search warrants for his residence, search warrants for the cars, everything you need to do, because if this person of interest, it wasn't happenstance that they just stop a person 50 miles away unless they have something to at least make that stop.
And less than 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes from the border. I mean, that seems to me there's a sense of urgency there. As this person is in a vehicle, they are in transit.
And that's the thing, this is an exigent circumstance, and that's the issue that you're going to have to, whatever, you're going to deal with investigation. The reality is this person, you have an abducted person who's 84 years old, who needs medication. The time is of the essence, no matter what. They're going to push this as hard as they can. And this person is detained in custody for whatever they believe, but right now that person is in custody for that possible traffic violation, along with other information. So they're going to work that side and talk to them and see what they can get on anything they can, so they can assist maybe an admission or omission he may.
It seems possible also, Joey, that this person could simply decide not to speak. Is that possible?
Absolutely. So we can't presume that there's going to be cooperation. Everyone has a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. I know many people may be rolling their eyes, but that's the reality. What's critical to me, Abby, is what made the connection to have him become a person of interest, right? What specific information does the government have, right? Law enforcement, that would suggest that he be a person you'd focus on. What is the connection? And then once they get this person, they have him in custody. Would he be a person who had the opportunity to do this? Would he be a person who has the motive? Is there a connection to the family? Was he in the area at some prior time? Where does he live? What does he do? What is his background all about, right? Would he have the relationships in order to get access to her? Does he fit the description of the person that we saw in the athletic build, etc., of that camera? And so we'll see. And we'll see also in terms of his cell phone. Was it in the cell phone in that area at that particular time? Is the cell phone, as we were talking about, connected to the Bitcoin account? And so there could be a lot to be gleaned out, even if he does not speak. Just the essence of who this person is, what their connections are, what their relationships are, going to determine whether they have their person, whether they have their man.
We do have Andy McCabe still with us, the former FBI Deputy Director. Andy, I want to ask you something a little bit more forensic about how we might have gone from a video that we didn't have previously, that we didn't know could be recovered, to somebody that they are now questioning. And one of our earlier guests talked about, is it possible that there was a cell phone in a pocket? How is it that authorities might be able to use these images to try to narrow down who they are looking for?
Well, the use of the images are most valuable in their ability to inspire other people to call in and say, hey, I know a guy who has gloves just like that, or gloves and a sweatshirt and a backpack just like that. It's really much more, you need someone to step forward and connect an identity with that appearance that you've managed to put out with respect to the video. But once you have that, that gets you to locating the person who, let's say was pulled over on the road today, 15 miles north of the Mexican border.
For no reason.
One of the additional benefits of picking that person up while they're driving, so doing it as part of a traffic stop, you also get to search the vehicle to create essentially a list of the property that's inside it when you impound the vehicle. You're not going to leave the vehicle on the side of the road there. You take it and pound it for safety and security reasons. And if you're going to do that, you get to look through it and catalog everything that's in it.